How many tabs do you have open right now? You know, if you need to actually count the number of tabs you have open, you probably have too many. But that's not what this video is about. I'm more concerned about what's happening on each of those tabs. Because between all those sites, there's a good chance they're each deploying their own method of tracking. From social media trackers to cross-site tracking cookies to fingerprinters, and even peering over your coworkers' shoulders. Okay, maybe not that last one. But with privacy becoming more of a prevalent topic online and more people becoming concerned about online privacy, tech companies have made it more of their mission in the last couple of years to address such an issue.
At Apple, we believe that privacy is a fundamental human right.
As the world gets bigger and more connected, we need that sense of intimacy more than ever. So that's why I believe that the future is private.
All bold claims, but does that include the browsers? Because websites now have a way to bypass all of these with a technique that leverages the use of favicons. Favicons can now be used to track users through incognito mode, even after clearing cache and after deleting cookies. So how did a feature introduced 22 years ago fly under the radar of privacy up until now? First, we have to talk about the battle between Netscape and Microsoft back in the mid-1990s, also known as the Browser Wars.
This week on the Computer Chronicles, the Battle of the Browsers.
Back then, the World Wide Web as we know it was still in its infancy, where personal computers were beige and blocky, and if you wanted to browse the web, you needed to either get a browser through your ISP or your local computer shop. If you were on the internet at this time, chances are you used Netscape Navigator to get around. But by 1995, Netscape wasn't the only way to get online.
He tried to ignore it briefly, and then he saw it wasn't, quickly he saw, in time, he saw that it wasn't going to be ignorable.
It took some time for Bill Gates to recognize the importance of the World Wide Web, and when he did, he went all in, releasing a company-wide memo that outlined a new feature for the company, emphasizing the importance of the internet as an emerging medium for endless connection and calling out Netscape as a born competitor, with their browser dominating the market user share at 70%. And the result was Microsoft's own browser, Internet Explorer, created with an objective of being a direct competitor to Netscape and to be the browser that matches and beats Netscape. The release of Internet Explorer was what sparked the browser war, as each company would release minor changes and features to their products every month with the intention of outdoing the other and pushing the competition out the market. And it was with these monthly releases that led developer Bharat Shyam at Microsoft to make a small update while working on the Internet Explorer favorites feature. See, with the current version of Internet Explorer and Netscape, you could add websites to a favorites list, certainly the ancestor to today's bookmarks. But what both browsers lacked was an easy way to navigate that favorites list if the user had added a ton of websites to it. The solution that Shyam came up with was to add a 16 by 16 pixel image next to each website to make the website stand out a little more. And he called these icons favicon, combining the word favorite and icon. At the time, all you had to do was upload a favicon.ico file to the root directory of the web server. Developers quickly caught on to the idea of adding favicons to their websites, and the feature soon became standardized by W3C. While favicons have been a part of the web for more than 2 decades and are a fairly simple decorative image, modern browsers use a very different behavior when caching them compared to other methods of caching data. Favicons get stored by the browser in a separate location called the fcache or favicon cache. Favicons are kept separately from other cached items like images, HTML files, and CSS style sheets. So when you clear the cache in your browser, you're deleting all those items except for the favicons. Websites can abuse this behavior by loading a series of favicons on a user browser that uniquely identify them over an extended period of time. This type of unique identifier is called a supercookie. In short, supercookies can be used in place of ordinary cookies, which are generally used to store user identifiers, except supercookies are much more difficult to delete and block. This makes it nearly impossible for users to protect their privacy as they browse the web. Jonas Strehl, a German software developer and researcher who built on the initial work done by those at the University of Illinois, has built a proof of concept on GitHub to draw attention to the problem of tracking possibilities using favicons. He explains that each time a web browser loads a website, it automatically asks the server to look up the favicon file and download it to its cache. But instead of responding with a single favicon, the server redirects the user through a series of subdomains, where each subdomain either does or does not return a unique favicon to create their own entry in the favicon cache. It's through this process that allows the web server to assign a unique identifier for each visitor's browser, and once the visitor returns to the website, they are taken through all subdomains to see which favicons the web browser has to download and which are already cached. And according to the researchers, this process can take about 2 seconds to run, which for context, it takes about 10 seconds for the average website to load. While this is largely proof of concept and nothing of its kind has been seen out in the real world yet, the researchers at the University of Illinois Chicago says that all top browsers including Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Edge are vulnerable to the super cookie attack, with the Brave browser doing the most so far to mitigate the vulnerability. They've also reached out to the vendors of those major browsers to propose changes to the browser's favicon caching behavior that can prevent this form of tracking and help give insight on various mitigation strategies. Browsers are at the forefront of our access to the internet, and as they increasingly deploy more effective anti-tracking defenses and anti-fingerprinting mechanisms gain more traction, tracking practices will continue to evolve and leverage alternate browser features. And it's up to the browser developers to act fast to keep up with these tracking practices and keep their users safe on the internet. Hey, I really hope you guys enjoyed this topic. Consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. And for those of you who are interested, I'll link below in the description Sterl's GitHub repository, where he explains these concepts in more detail as well as actions you can take to defend against these vulnerabilities.